It is week 18 in the NFL season. The San Francisco 49ers still have a chance to get home field advantage in the playoffs. All of that is going to be going down today at Levi Stadium. We're going to get into the keys of the game next on the 49ers pregame show with Jack Hammer. Hey everybody, it's Jack Hammer live here from Levi Stadium, where it is week 18 in the NFL season, and it is time to find out what happens as far as the NFC playoffs and the NFL playoffs overall. But for those of you watching this show, all you're worried about is what happens with the 49ers and who they're going to end up playing next week here at Levi Stadium, or maybe they get next week off. We'll see what happens. And real quick, before we get started, I want to shout out a few folks over in the comment section. We have Black59 Razor says, "Hi Jack, today is the day Goff knocks Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs." Could be. That would be fun to see. Texas Niner says the Bears. He's looking for the Bears to beat the Vikings, it looks like. We have Joey Little who says, "Let's go Niner and Giants." Let's go, Joey. Oh, excuse me, it's Joey Lilly. I apologize for that. We have Raphael 5629ers, a member of the Toolbox. He says, "Good morning, Jack. Members of the Toolbox and everyone, make sure you like and subscribe as well." Yes, please. Always thank you for that reminder. We have Lucas Pesci, who is another member of the Toolbox, who says, "Hi, Jack. Hey, Lucas, hope you're doing well." And let's get into it. This is going to be an interesting day. Like I said, we'll find out where the 49ers are going to match up in the playoffs, who they're going to be facing. They come in today as the number 2 seed, can get to the number 1 seed, although it might seem a little bit unlikely given the fact that Davis Webb will be the starting quarterback today for the New York Giants against Philadelphia, who also will be getting Jalen Hurts back. So it's a little bit of a long shot for the 49ers to get that top seed. But right now, it's all about winning today to make sure that they can maintain that number 2 seed. And that's where they are right now. It looks like last I saw when I was walking into the stadium, the Vikings were up 6-0, I think the score was. So we'll see how that game winds up. But if the Vikings win, the 49ers need to beat the Cardinals today in order to hold on to the number 2 seed instead of falling to the number 3 seed. So we'll see how this works out today for the 49ers. You look at this and the Cardinals come into this game having lost 8 of their last 9 games, including 6 in a row. They're on their 3rd quarterback of the season, much like the 49ers, but David Blau is a completely different guy than what Brock Purdy is, and he doesn't have the weapons that Brock Purdy has to work with either. So we'll get into that. Today's also going to mark the final game for J.J. Watt. Over the course of his 12-year career, Watt was a first-team All-Pro 5 times. This season, he's recorded 10.5 sacks, the most that he's had since 2018. So he's playing at a high level, and he's looking to finish off his career strong today here at Levi Stadium as well. But here are my 5 keys for the game, 5 things to watch for. Like I said, this is one of those games where you look at it and it doesn't necessarily there's not a whole lot of excitement built around this game other than the 49ers needing to win, but they're playing a pretty bad team. So we'll get into that a little bit real quick. MG has a question. He says, "Hi," or they say, "Hi, Jack. Do you think the Lions have a chance to get in?" I do. I do think the Lions have a chance to get in, but it's going to be kind of like the 49ers' chance of getting into the number 1 seed. Another team that's less talented is going to have to pull off a major upset. Do the Rams go into Seattle today, or do the Rams beat Seattle today? With Seattle playing for their playoff lives, I think that might be a little bit of a long shot there. I think that the Rams are going to knock the Seahawks off. So if the Seahawks win this afternoon, that knocks the Lions out of the playoffs. But then, as far as the Lions beating the Packers, I think it's a little bit of there's a reason that the Packers would be the favorite in that game. They haven't lost under their coach LaFleur in the month of December and January at home. So I think that makes it a really interesting game. But I also think that there's a lot to like about this Detroit team in this game tonight. So I think that Sunday night game is going to be really interesting. But I think when the day is over, it's going to be the Packers as the 7th seed coming into Levi Stadium next weekend for the first round of the NFC playoffs. I think that's how this day is going to wind up. But we'll see how it goes. Texas Niner wants to know how the weather is. It's beautiful. It's been ugly weather out here in California for most part this week. I tweeted out a couple of days ago, and right now the weather forecast that I saw a couple of days ago is holding steady in that it is a sunny day today. It is a little cool. There's some clouds off to the west, but I think that's fog that's burning off more than anything. I think we're going to be in for good weather conditions today for this game, maybe a little bit of wind, but doesn't look like there's going to be any kind of precipitation to put a damper on this. So from that standpoint, it looks pretty good there. Mulch come in the house. Good to see you, Luke. He says, good morning, Bay Area. Good morning to you. And he wants to know, did you mention a week ago that the 3rd seed might be an easier path to the Super Bowl than the 2 seed? I did. I don't like the matchup with the Packers. I think that's if you're looking at the matchup with the Packers, I think that's one that doesn't favor the 49ers have the better team, but there's aspects to that Packers team when you look at the other teams that could potentially be matchups for the 49ers that really is a tough matchup for them. You look at the Packers, they have 2 really strong running backs. 49ers struggle. Let me stop before I get into what the Packers have. The 49ers struggle against teams that have a good running game, a strong offensive line, and multiple weapons for the quarterback to throw to, but then also a quarterback can get the ball to them. The Packers have all that. They have a pair of really good running backs, and then you go to the offensive line. Their offensive line is one of the better in the league in terms of protecting the quarterback. They've given up from a pass. I think they're number 8 in the NFL in terms of quarterback sack percentage allowed, which is right behind the 49ers. So it's one of the better ones of the teams that are likely to be in the NFC playoffs. And then you look at the weapons on the outside, and they have this young receiving core that's really come on over the second half of the season, and they have a pretty good tight end as well. So there's a lot to like about it. And then you also go back. I understand that people say the 49ers own Aaron Rodgers. Well, I don't know. The 49ers lost to the Packers here last year in September on a Sunday night game. They were trailing in Green Bay and would have lost that game if not for a special teams punt block that gets recovered in the end zone. Kind of a little bit of a fluke play, but a good play nonetheless. And then you look at Green Bay also, and their defense is really coming along. So of the playoff teams that you're going to face at 7, Green Bay is the toughest. The Giants are probably the weakest playoff team in the NFC. And then you get to some of the other ones. But it's a lot of tough matchups in the NFC. I just think that when you look at, for me, one of my main things is the quarterback position. The Packers are best aligned along everything. They have the quarterback. They have all the weapons. I think Tampa Bay is right there as well. I think Tampa Bay and Green Bay give you the toughest quarterback matchup. And then beyond that, Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia is a really strong overall matchup as well. Hurts is a different kind of player and different reasons. So, but yeah, I do think that for the 49ers, the 3rd seed might be an easier path to the Super Bowl than the 2 seed. At the same time, being the 2 seed and guaranteeing that the 49ers can play here at least the next 2 weeks, if they win next week, would be really is a positive. Trust me, I would rather be able to come to Santa Clara to cover the game than getting on an airplane in 2 weeks to go out to Minnesota to watch them play and cover that game. Do you think a round 1 Saturday game would give the home teams a bigger advantage than a Sunday game? Yeah, I do. I think a round 1 Saturday game, especially if it's Saturday afternoon at 1:30, is a bigger advantage because you've got the Vikings would have to, not the Vikings, but especially if it's the Packers, they're going to have to fly out here. One less day of practice, I do think it's an advantage. I don't know if it's how big the advantage is, but I do think it helps the home team there. Niners offense is finally going to carry the defense. Yeah, there's some possibility to that. I will say this. I was out in Las Vegas yesterday. A friend of mine was able to ask me at the last minute. He's a big Raider fan. Asked me, because of the Raiders schedule being moved from Sunday to Saturday, he had an open ticket for the game. And so I was out in Vegas yesterday watching the Raiders and the Chiefs. And I know it's the Chiefs. I saw what the Chiefs did here live to the 49ers as well. But this is the 49ers offense. I think they can carry this team. But that Raider defense and what we saw the 49ers do to them last week, you got to remember that Raider defense is pretty bad. and they were missing two of their better players in Chandler Jones and Denzel Perryman as well last week too, and obviously yesterday. This 49er offense is good, but they need the defense to help them out, especially when it gets into the playoff time. So we'll see how that works out. I'm not trying to be a negative. I'm just saying that it's not going to be an easy road, and I think everybody knows that. I don't think I'm breaking any news with that. Roberto Davis wants to know if I believe that D'Amico Ryans can scheme around Hufanga and Lenoir. Yeah, I mean, he's been doing it all year. Lenoir, for the most part, has played very well. I think the Lenoir thing is one of the more interesting ones because Lenoir struggled last week again, but he's also struggled against Davante Adams. It wasn't just, another starting receiver in the NFL. It was one of the best starting wide receivers in the NFL that he struggled against last week. And prior to that game, he was giving up a passer rating of around 66, 67, which is really low. He hasn't allowed a touchdown pass all year. His yards allowed isn't that high. It was under before last week. I don't think he allowed over 50 in a game since moving to the outside corner position. So when it comes to Diamond Lenoir, I think that's a little overblown. The Talanoa Hufanga stuff, you're gonna give a little and you're gonna get a little with him, right? You're gonna have a breakdown every once in a while. It's been a little more so over the second half of the season than the first half, but I know I'm fine with Talanoa Hufanga. I don't think you're trying to scheme around him. I think you just need to make sure that he's drilled in on his eye discipline. D'Amico Ryans talked about that this week. You got to be good with eyes, be good, discipline in that regard as well. You can't try to be a hero and help out. That's what happened to him against the Raiders. The touchdown that he gave up against the Raiders to Darren Waller. It's a 3rd and 1 situation. Josh Jacobs is a strong inside runner. They fake the handoff to him, and instead of sticking on the tight end, which is his responsibility, he takes one extra step to help in the run before realizing that it's a pass, and so he gets beat. So that's really where it is. And the same thing on the long touchdown pass to Davante Adams, right? You as a defensive back have to stick to your man. You can't be trying to help other people. Everybody, Bill Belichick said it at one point, just do your job. Just do your job. Don't try to do somebody else's job. Do your job. And let everything else fall where it should. And that's what we saw a couple of times with Talanoa Hufanga against the Raiders. So I don't think it's something that you can really scheme around. You just need the guy to be able to trust his eyes and trust his teammates to go out and make the plays and not have to be the hero. So that's that there. And let's get into it a little bit because I see some questions that match up with some of the stuff that I want to talk about today as far as the keys and things to watch for today. The first key the first topic is, will the 49ers defense struggle against another unknown quarterback? Last week they hadn't seen a quarterback. Didn't know much of Jarrett Stidham at all. He'd only had, I think, 60 attempts going into last week's game. Threw for 365, 23 of 34. Had a couple of picks that were big in the 49ers coming back to win that game. He was also able to run the ball for 34 yards. And now you have David Blau coming in. Blau's a little bit different because you have a little bit more film on him. He's made 6 starts in the NFL. He had 5 with Detroit in 2019. So you can go back and watch some of his tendencies from 2019. And then you can watch his game last week against Arizona. So it's a little bit different than last week against Stidham in that at least there's recent film, a game that you can see with him on the field and kind of see the things that he's doing. I think we'll see. I think they're going to be a little bit more prepared for that. The other thing is that Blau doesn't have the weapons like Stidham had. Right, Stidham had Darren Waller and Davante Adams, and like I was just talking about, they have a really good offensive line out in Vegas. Their issue is more on the defensive side of the ball. For Arizona, they don't have the weapons. There won't be any DeAndre Hopkins. Don't expect to see Robbie Anderson today. And then their top running back, James Conner. I don't know if we're going to see any of those guys today. And if that's the case, Blau just won't have very much in terms of help. So I think this is a situation for the 49ers. If I was to mark this down right now, I would say no, that the 49ers won't struggle with Blau. But we'll see how that one goes today. Number 2, can this be a record-setting day for Nick Bosa? I asked this last week as well against the Raiders. Bosa comes in. He leads the NFL in sacks with 17.5. If he can get 2 today, he's going to tie Aldon Smith for the most in 49ers franchise history. So the goal here is to see if he can get to 2.5. If he can get to 2.5, he will set the 49ers record for sacks in a season. He leads the NFL also with 47 quarterback hits. If he can register at least 3 quarterback hits on today against Arizona, he'll become the second player since 2006 to register 50 or more quarterback hits in the season. That would tie in with J.J. Watt, I believe, is the other one that's done that. So that would be the 2 things to watch with Nick Bosa. 2.5 sacks today to get the record, 2 to tie it, 2.5 to get it. And can he become the second player since 2006 with 50 or more quarterback hits? You go back to the first meeting between these teams in Mexico City. Bosa had 1 sack, but he also hit Colt McCoy 4 times. So we'll see how that one plays out. The question that Texas Niner said is he wants to know how much should we see of David. Where was it? He was up here a minute ago. Texas Niner, where are you? I saw you over here a minute ago. Give me a second. I'm looking for it. So that was a good question. I'm not seeing it now. But you were asking about how much of what we're going to see from Elijah Mitchell and that group. So I do think that we're going to see. Here it is. How much do you think Elijah will be on the field? I think this is one of the things to watch for today. How long the starters are going to play. Resting the starters hasn't been something that Kyle Shanahan said he's going to do. How long they're going to play depends on the 49ers' ability to move up in the seeding. If Minnesota wins today, then the 49ers are going to have to win today in order to keep that spot. We'll see how motivated the 49ers are to be in the number 2 seed. Because if Minnesota wins, I think we see the 49ers play their starters like a regular game, really, to hone in on that and get to where they have, late in the fourth quarter, if they're up by a couple scores and they take the starters off the field. But there's some things that they can do here. Elijah Mitchell is expected to return. He is going to be playing. He hasn't played since injuring his knee against New Orleans in Week 12. Last time that he made a return from the knee injury, he carried the ball 18 times. I don't think we're going to see that. According to John Lynch on the radio on Friday, he thinks that they'll have Elijah Mitchell on a pitch count, is what he said. So they'll be limiting his touches. I would say for Elijah Mitchell, look for him to have the ball less than 10 times today. And again, it's a game flow thing too, right? They don't want to give him the ball too much. Christian McCaffrey's been dealing with some injuries. I don't think they want to give him the ball too much either. But you need to win this game if you're really going to try to get that number 2 seed. So you need to make sure that you're winning and up by a comfortable margin before you start taking your best players off the field. And you have the same thing happening here with Deebo Samuel. He's been practicing all week. Reports are that he's going to be making the return today, along with Christian McCaffrey playing. All 3 of those, I think we're going to see them on some type of a pitch count. But at the same time, I think the 49ers will go after it early, trying to get a big lead and then be able to coast in the second half. I really think that's their goal for today, is to jump out on them and then be able to ride through after that. Black 59 and Razor says, Jack, who is your favorite 49er defender of all time? Ronnie Lott. Texas Niner says, how is Jason Poe, and have you seen Kalia Davis? I don't want any D lineman to get hurt to see him on the field, but what do you think? Well, you're not going to see either of these 2 guys. Jason Poe's on the practice squad. They're not going to pull him up. He wasn't pulled up for today's game. Kalia Davis is a guy who is, they activated him in terms of for practice. They opened up the practice window. And as Kyle Shanahan said this week, that was mostly just to get him some reps and get him some experience with the team. Don't expect to see Kalia Davis brought up either. So I don't think we'll see any of Jason Poe or Kalia Davis on the field in games for the 49ers this year. I think their seasons will pretty much come to an end today. I mean, Jason Poe will be out there for practices and stuff like that, but you won't see him get called up for a game. In terms of the offense, a couple of things to watch for today for the 49ers is Brock Purdy. Can he get a strong finish? You look at what Brock Purdy's done this year, and he's every question that's been thrown at him. Can he do this? Can he do that? Can he go up? Can he win in a hostile environment? Goes up to Seattle and wins. Okay, now I want to see what Brock Purdy can do if the 49ers are behind. Can he bring the 49ers back? He did that last week against Las Vegas. Everything that gets thrown in his way, he just continues to answer with a positive. This is going to be his final opportunity to get some snaps before the start of the postseason. Going to be a big one for him. You got to come out and be strong, make smart decisions, lead this offense. Just do what you've been doing. Basically, I mean, there's been some missed throws here and there, but for the most part, he's making the plays. He's going to be looking to extend his streak of throwing at least 2 touchdown passes in a game. So far, he's done it 5 in a row. That's the most by a 49ers quarterback since 2001, when Jeff Garcia threw at least 2 touchdowns in 8 straight games. So for Brock Purdy to break Jeff Garcia's record, he needs to hit 2 today to get the 6, and he needs to hit 2 next week in the wild card game. Got to get 2 in the divisional round, and then he'd have to get a couple in the NFC Championship game as well if he's going to break that record this year. It's been a really good start for Brock Purdy. A lot to be excited about with him. I know I'm a little bit hard on him sometimes with some of the film reviews, and I do have I do really like what I see from this guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he performs today and then on into the playoffs. And then the last question is, can Brandon Ayuk get at least 44 receiving yards? This has been a career year for Brandon Ayuk. Third-year receiver. He has 8 touchdown receptions, the most of his career, and he needs 44 yards today to hit 1,000 in a season for the first time. He had only 2 catches for 20 yards in the game against Arizona down in Mexico City. But you look at this team today, the Arizona defensive secondary is going to be missing Budda Baker. That should help open him up. It's going to help open up George Kittle as well, and Kittle's been on a hot streak, but this is all about Brandon Ayuk, and can he get there? Arizona placed their safety on injury reserve with a fractured shoulder after their loss to Tampa on Christmas night. So, no Budda Baker. There's been some injuries in the secondary for Arizona. This really looks like a game in which Brandon Ayuk can get over 44 and get to 1,000 yards on the season. So there you go. Those are my 5 keys to things to watch for today. The defense struggling against another unknown quarterback. Can Bosa get 2.5 sacks to break the 49ers single season sack record? That would get him to 20, with 19.5 right now. Byron Smith is the team record. Brock Purdy, and how does he perform in his last tune-up for the playoffs? 44 yards for Brandon Ayuk, and also how long will the 49ers starters play? So those are the keys for me. Those are the things I'm looking to see. Let's see what else. If there's any other questions or comments before I run off and go starting to get to work. Doesn't look like I see any. It looks like Vikings are up 13-0 over the Bears. So, that, again, Luke's question point right there, up 13-0. 49ers need to win. If 49ers win today, it keeps them in the 2 seed. If they lose, it drops them to the 3. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out today for the 49ers. And I agree with you, Texas Niner. I'm looking forward to seeing Elijah Mitchell. I think Elijah is a – I'll let that come go by. Elijah Mitchell is the perfect complement to Christian McCaffrey, because he's strong in the run game and in the pass game, and that's why the Niners like him so much. So that's it. My battery's about ready to die. It's now 16-0 Vikings. 49ers need to win in order to keep the number 2 seed today. We'll see how that goes. I want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time to watch this. If you can do me a favor before you leave, hit that like button, and then also hit the subscribe button. If you're checking this out and you're already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and a little bell notification so you know when we go live. But other than that, thank you all very much. I'll be back after the game with my post-game show, give you my thoughts on today's performance, and hopefully this game's over at halftime, where we can get on a little bit earlier for you tonight as well. So have a great rest of your Sunday, everybody. Enjoy the game this afternoon. I'll be talking with y'all soon. Get over to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com for the live blog for the game today. You'll get my instant analysis, some thoughts on the game as it's going on over there as well. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. Have a good Sunday.